The apartment was too quiet for a Thursday evening. I had expected Alex to be home when I walked in, humming a tune from the shower or talking about their day. Instead, the only sound was the soft clicking of a laptop from the bedroom. I paused at the doorway, frowning at the glow spilling under the door. Something in the rhythm of their movements seemed off. Earlier that day, I'd noticed it again. The little phone buzzes, the quick glances when I passed by, the subtle smirk that didn't reach the eyes. I had brushed it off before, blaming stress or long work hours. But tonight, intuition screamed louder than any rational excuse. I stepped closer, letting my ears catch fragments of laughter. A voice that wasn't mine, a voice that didn't belong in our apartment. I froze. For a moment, I considered leaving, pretending I hadn't seen or heard anything. But curiosity, sharp and insistent, pushed me forward. I leaned slightly into the room, careful to stay unnoticed, and saw them. Alex, tangled in someone else's embrace, their face alight with laughter that once had been reserved for me. For a second, my world halted. The perfect image I'd built over years shattered into 1,000 shards. My chest tightened, not from panic, but from the clarity of betrayal. Every small warning I had ignored, the late-night texts, the disappearing acts, the sudden laughter at messages I couldn't read, snapped into focus. I wasn't imagining things. This was real. Yet, despite the surge of emotion, I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I didn't cry. I studied them, like an observer cataloging evidence. I could feel my mind calculating, analyzing. I had ignored the red flags before, but now, clarity burned hotter than anger. This wasn't a moment for chaos, it was a moment for strategy. As I straightened and stepped fully into the room, Alex froze, mid-laugh, eyes wide. I let the silence hang between us, thick and heavy. When words finally came, they stumbled over excuses, justifications, pleas to talk it through, mentions of space and experimenting. But I had already started planning my next moves in my head. There would be no manipulation, no emotional tug-of-war. Tonight wasn't just a revelation. Tonight was the beginning of reclaiming control. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange thrill. Not fear, not heartbreak, but a sharp, strategic clarity that I had almost forgotten existed. I didn't sleep that night, not from grief, not from shock, but from the meticulous planning that consumed my mind. I replayed the scene over and over, cataloging every detail. The way Alex's hand rested on someone else's waist, the laughter that wasn't mine, the familiar phrases I had once thought were exclusive to our private world. Each fragment became a data point, a piece of undeniable proof that I could no longer ignore. By morning, I had a strategy. I began subtly, checking email logs, cross-referencing Alex's social calendar, making notes of patterns and inconsistencies. Every unexplained absence, every rushed explanation, every small lie Alex had brushed off as nothing now formed a map of deception. I didn't confront them immediately. Acting rashly would only give Alex the upper hand. I needed control, and control required patience. Work became a cover for my calculations. Meetings, deadlines, conference calls, I threw myself into them, keeping my public persona calm, composed, untouched. No one suspected a thing. But in the quiet moments, I reviewed text messages, receipts, screenshots, anything that could corroborate the truth I now knew. I wasn't gathering this for revenge. I was gathering it to reclaim my life. The red flags I had once dismissed now made perfect sense. Alex's sudden client dinners, the unexplained weekend trips, the laughter at texts behind a locked phone, they were all signals I had ignored, proof of a life they had been living in parallel to ours. The recognition of this duality only fueled my resolve. I wasn't a victim. I was an active player in this game. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed. A timeline, corroborating evidence, a clear understanding of Alex's patterns. I even found emails and messages to the same person I had glimpsed that night, proof of premeditation, not a momentary lapse. I filed everything, backed it up, and prepared myself mentally for the confrontation that I knew would come. The calm precision I maintained surprised even me. Friends noticed a change, but I brushed it off as work stress. Inside, however, a quiet satisfaction grew. I had turned betrayal into clarity, chaos into order. And for the first time since discovering Alex's infidelity, I felt something like freedom, a sense that I could act decisively without fear or hesitation, and that my life would continue on my terms. By the weekend, I had already scoped out a new apartment, reconnected with old friends, and even researched legal steps for shared property and finances. Alex might have thought they had power, but I knew the truth. I was the one regaining control, step by step, and the next time we spoke, it would be on my terms. By Monday evening, I was ready. Alex came home humming as if nothing had changed, as if last Thursday had been a figment of my imagination. I didn't greet them with anger. I let the silence stretch, letting every second weigh heavily in the air. Finally, I spoke, calm, precise. "We need to talk." Alex froze, the confident smirk replaced with a flicker of panic. "Claire, I can explain." "No," I interrupted. "I don't need explanations. I need clarity. I know about her. I know everything." For a moment, Alex's face betrayed the slightest hint of guilt, then hardened into practiced charm. "Claire, it's not what you think. Maybe we should take a break, explore, different things. I just need space to figure myself out." A break, space, a thinly veiled attempt to manipulate me, to make me question my own perception. I let them finish, letting every syllable hang like a rope I had no intention of grabbing. "I've seen the texts. I've seen the emails. I know about your experiments," I said, my voice steady. "I've also taken steps to protect myself. This ends now, Alex. You will not manipulate me. Not with guilt, not with charm, not with lies." Alex tried to interject, their tone oscillating between desperation and entitlement, but I held firm. I laid out my expectations clearly. Move out within 2 weeks, no interference in my life, no contact beyond logistics. I had already documented everything, backed up financial accounts, and scouted a new apartment. Every detail was under control. The calmness in my voice shocked Alex more than anger could have. I wasn't pleading, I wasn't crying. I was reclaiming authority over a life that they had attempted to destabilize. Over the next few days, Alex oscillated between attempts to charm, threaten, and manipulate, but nothing worked. I didn't respond to guilt trips or emotional appeals. I scheduled movers, finalized my legal consultations, and informed close friends and family. Every step was deliberate, a reminder to myself that strategy beats emotion always. By the time Alex finally moved out, their world had already begun to unravel. Mutual friends who had sensed deceit distanced themselves. At work, colleagues questioned their reliability, noticing subtle cracks in the professional persona Alex had maintained. Socially and professionally, consequences followed swiftly, but I didn't celebrate. My victory wasn't in their downfall, it was in the reclamation of my autonomy. That week, standing in my empty apartment, I felt a strange sense of triumph. I had confronted betrayal, navigated manipulation, and emerged not only unbroken, but empowered. The most important lesson had already taken root. Clarity and decisive action were my weapons, and self-respect my shield. The first night in my new apartment, the silence felt different, not empty, but full of potential. No whispers, no secrets, no lies. Just space I could call entirely my own. Unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, choosing colors for the walls, I realized I had been missing this. Control over my environment, my time, my life. Each decision, from the smallest coffee mug to the placement of my books, was a reminder that I was the architect now. I began to reclaim routines I had abandoned during the haze of Alex's deceit. Morning runs along the marina became my meditation. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement reminded me that progress was forward, deliberate. I signed up for a photography class, something I had always wanted but never pursued. Each frame I captured felt like a piece of myself returned, a fragment of creativity untainted by betrayal. Work, once a sanctuary, now became a launchpad. Freed from constant worry and manipulation, I poured energy into projects, leading with clarity and confidence. Colleagues noticed a new aura about me, a quiet strength that demanded respect without asking for it. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away, realizing that authentic relationships thrive on trust and mutual respect, not convenience. Weekend dinners, laughter-filled hikes, and spontaneous road trips slowly filled the void Alex had left. Evenings became my time for reflection. I journaled, not to obsess over what had been, but to map out the future I wanted. I revisited passions I had shelved: painting, cooking complex dishes, exploring hidden city spots. Each rediscovered interest was a statement. I wasn't merely surviving, I was thriving. Work, once a sanctuary, now became a launchpad. Freed from constant worry and manipulation, I poured energy into projects, leading with clarity and confidence. Colleagues noticed a new aura about me, a quiet strength that demanded respect without asking for it. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away, realizing that authentic relationships thrive on trust and mutual respect, not convenience. Weekend dinners, laughter-filled hikes, and spontaneous road trips slowly filled the void Alex had left. Evenings became my time for reflection. I journaled, not to obsess over what had been, but to map out the future I wanted. I revisited passions I had shelved: painting, cooking complex dishes, exploring hidden city spots. Each rediscovered interest was a statement. I wasn't merely surviving, I was thriving. When Alex's social and professional circles began whispering about their misdeeds, I felt no satisfaction, only relief that I had chosen decisively. I didn't need revenge. The universe had a way of correcting itself. My focus was singular: building a life untainted by manipulation, free from the shadow of someone who couldn't value honesty. Months passed, and with each passing day, I became more than the person Alex had tried to limit. I was independent, self-assured, and fully present in my own life. The betrayal that once felt like a chasm now seemed like a catalyst. It had forced me to strip away illusions, recognize my worth, and construct a life deliberately aligned with my values. And in the quiet moments, when I watched the sunset over the city from my balcony, I understood the most important lesson. Freedom and self-respect aren't gifts, they are choices we make repeatedly, even when it hurts. Alex had taken their chance at deception, and I had taken mine at reclamation. One choice had destroyed the illusion, the other had rebuilt reality. By winter, Alex's carefully curated world had begun to crumble. Colleagues who once admired their professional polish now questioned their reliability. Rumors of manipulation and deceit spread quietly but relentlessly. Projects that Alex had led with confidence were reassigned. Even clients who had once praised their creativity began asking for other contacts. The same charm that had masked betrayal now seemed hollow, a thin veneer over instability. Mutual friends who had been caught in the middle distanced themselves. Invitations to social events ceased, messages went unanswered, and the network Alex had relied upon for validation evaporated almost overnight. I watched this from a distance, not with glee, but with measured satisfaction. I hadn't orchestrated their downfall, I had merely refused to participate in it. The consequences were the natural result of choices made without integrity. Meanwhile, my life continued to flourish. The new apartment felt like a sanctuary. The photography class became more than a hobby. It was a creative outlet that connected me to a community of like-minded people. Weekend hikes evolved into small adventures with friends who shared my passions. Work thrived, and I began taking on leadership opportunities I had previously avoided, confident in my judgment and autonomy. The most profound change, however, was internal. I no longer second-guessed myself. I no longer ignored intuition or silenced doubts in the name of love. I had learned that noticing red flags and acting decisively was not paranoia, it was strategy. My sense of self-worth strengthened, anchored in the knowledge that I would never settle for uncertainty disguised as affection. Looking back, I understood the lesson betrayal had forced upon me. Life without backup plans is not reckless, it is authentic. Choosing to step away from deception, to reclaim control, and to invest in myself first is not selfish, it is survival. I had been strategic, decisive, and unrelenting, and in doing so, I had built a life that was mine entirely. When I stand on my balcony at sunset now, the city lights twinkling like a promise, I feel a quiet pride. Alex's departure, their unraveling, my reclamation, it all converged to one undeniable truth. Integrity and self-respect are non-negotiable. The perfect life isn't about flawless relationships. It's about the courage to live fully, honestly, and deliberately. And that is exactly what I chose. Spring arrived, and with it, a sense of renewal. My new apartment smelled of fresh paint and possibility. I was no longer defined by betrayal or broken trust. Photography classes, weekend hikes, and laughter with friends filled my days. Work challenges excited me instead of draining me. Alex was a distant memory. Their social circles had shifted, professional credibility shaken, and personal connections frayed. I didn't gloat. The consequences were natural, not orchestrated. I focused on my own life, thriving in the clarity that came from decisive action and self-respect. The betrayal that had once felt catastrophic now seemed like a necessary push. I had learned to trust my instincts, set boundaries, and never settle for half measures in love or life. Independence, integrity, and choice became my guiding principles. As I watched the sunset over the city, I realized the truth. Happiness is not found in illusions or control over others, it is built from the courage to reclaim your own life. And for the first time in years, I felt completely free.